Well, that's offensive to me that you just said grow up. And by the way, I'm offended.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. But seriously?
It's unfortunate.
Oh, honey. I mean, Aaron.
Now you're calling me honey.
And she's been running for this office for 6 years, and she doesn't know whether we should do tolls or not.
I know exactly what I want to do, Governor. Don't lie to them again. Don't lie to them again. I know exactly what I want to do.
You've been running for 6 years.
You've been governor for 6 years.
And you don't know what we should.
Well, it was spirited. Brian Crandall was there. You were watching from the sidelines. You know, let's be fair. The use of the word honey, if Gukian had used that on her, he would have been whacked for it.
Oh, sure.
A woman uses it. It's a different perspective, isn't it?
Right, and they had a little history apparently. About he apologized for something he said about her a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
right?
he was poking fun at suggesting she retouches her photographs.
Yeah.
He said it on the radio. He did apologize on the radio, but she felt he should have apologized in person, and she took the opportunity last night. Why don't you apologize now?
Yes.
Which he did not. He did not. Oh, he said, I've apologized already. And now, just before the Democrats, Helena uses the word lie, which is it's a strong word. You know, we all throw it about, but when you use it in that context, she went after him and said, "You lie."
Yeah. Well, that seemed to be an unscripted moment in the debate, right? They each had their talking points on the big issues, right? There's the opioids, there's the bridge, but when the truck tolls came up, I think McKee seized on her kind of pausing for a second and saying she would still look at options and not having a plan right now. And you know, the background is the truck tolls have now been off for years because of a court challenge, but the courts ruled they could come back on with certain conditions. The problem with the tolls the first time was that the local truckers got a break, a reduced rate. The courts found that was unconstitutional. So the big conundrum since then has been, how do we turn them back on but not burden the local truckers? She said she would not turn the tolls back on unless they were exempt, but the problem was the courts have already said you can't do that. McKee says just turn them back on, and there is a plan to do that. And it's interesting because it was Gina Raimondo who came up with the truck toll plan in the first place, and folks in Raimondo you would think are more aligned than McKee and Raimondo, and that was kind of the interesting point where he kind of saw an opening.
By the way, Raimondo, that wasn't her original idea. That comes out of Washington think tanks, Bloomberg. She didn't just pop eyeball, idea, light bulb. Let's go with truck tolls. There's a whole story behind that. But last night, I think Helena had a misstep. Listen, the truck tolls are coming back. And they're coming back with equal truck tolls, whether you're a Rhode Island trucker or whether you're an out-of-state trucker. And I think the notion that she says, well, I'm going to look at a way not to charge Rhode Island truckers, that flies in the face of the ruling. Go ahead, play that soundbite. This is Helena.
I don't want Rhode Island companies to have to pay the truck toll. So until we can figure that out, I'm a no.
Okay, so Rhode Island companies like Job Lot right now, they will pay a truck toll just like an outside company.
Yeah.
On your watch, you will put the brakes on truck tolls until you can figure out a way that Rhode Island companies will be exempt?
Yeah, I want to explore other options.
Wasn't that the thesis of the lawsuit?
We'll explore other options. Under the governor's watch, we've been on, we've been off. We have to spend another $20 million. It's a big, giant mess.
All right, so McKee, she gave an opening, and he pounced. Wait a minute, didn't you read the court decision?
Well, and then his line was, "You've been running for governor for 6 years, right?" He's going back to 2022, and the thought ever since then that she would run again and challenge him. That you should have a plan for basically everything at this point, and how are you going to say, I still need to explore more options? So he was ready with that line. You've been running for this. How do you not know? I mean, her retort was, they've been on again, off again. Well, part of that was a court challenge, and then now the DOT is going to have to spend a lot of money. They basically say to retrofit the whole system before they turn them back on again.
But this notion that you're going to be able to turn the truck tolls back on and exempt Rhode Island truckers, it's not going to work. That was the premise of the court. Go ahead, Governor McKee, respond.
What you're hearing is a candidate that is totally unprepared, no governing experience, and she's been running for this office for 6 years, and she doesn't know whether we should do tolls or not.
I know exactly what I want to do, Governor. Don't lie to them again. Don't lie to them again. I know exactly what I want to do.
You've been running for 6 years.
And you governor for 6 years.
And you don't know what we should be doing on roads, and you don't know what we should be doing on tolls.
Okay.
Oh, the word lie.
Yeah, that word lie, and then she threw the bridge in, which leads us to the bridge. Look, the bridge is a tough issue.
Right, and I think she's been careful to navigate this. Like, I find fault with what you did after the bridge was shut down, not there was a problem with the bridge beforehand and the inspectors missed it. I think she's seeing that the opportunity to attack him is after, and she brought up that first initial botched bid process. And we did stories on it at the time that originally they came out, a few months after the bridge was shut down and said, all right, we're going to build a new bridge. We'll have it done by September of 2026. They put out the bid and nobody took it. And that's what she's seizing on. And then they had to go back to the drawing board and then we're behind. But he, keeps claiming that they're not actually behind. But that's her attack. Now, she wasn't, I would say, as aggressive on the attack as he was on opioids, but I think she made her point, like, this is where I think you mismanaged it.
He was the aggressor. He was clearly more aggressive than she was. She held her own, though. I think we saw a little feisty side of her last night that we haven't seen before. All right, this is why I specifically asked the question this way. There's before the bridge emergency and after the emergency. Now, the narrative McKee has been saying is before the bridge emergency, our inspectors failed us. The construction companies failed us. That's why I'm suing them as I would sue a doctor for malpractice. Helena appeared to agree with that narrative, that half of the story pre-emergency. Roll it.
Do you buy that narrative that the inspectors and the construction companies who worked for us failed us and now we're going to sue them? Do you buy that part of the story? This is pre-emergency.
I think that it's fair to look at the inspectors and see if they did a job. Okay. But what I'm mostly critical about is what happened after all of this. The way the governor and Peter Alviti managed this mess has really cost Rhode Islanders time and money. They're stuck in traffic. They've changed their lives. And the governor, let me just tell people, if I could, Jean, what happened. The governor desperately wanted a bridge built by this election. So he sent out a proposal to get bids, and he had very severe penalties if the bridge wasn't built by this year. He waited 6 months, and after 6 months, not one company bid on that process. Okay. So he had to start over. That did cost all of us time and money.
Well, Governor, you got half. They appear to go. By the way, Republicans also appear to go along with that first half. Before the bridge, the inspectors may have botched it. We'll let the courts handle that. Afterward, Governor, you got a heavy lift here because she's whacking you on that botched bid project. Let's play that, and then we're going to talk about the judge's appointment yesterday as well.
Look, I kept people safe. That was the most important thing to do, and I did it regardless of the consequences. And then we got right to work in terms of determining. It took 90 days to determine, because I hired my own engineers, my own attorneys, to determine whether that bridge could be repaired or not. When it was determined it couldn't be repaired, we immediately started the process, which, by the way, we're a couple of years ahead of Maryland. My opponent made a joke at her announcement that we were 2 years behind Maryland. We're 2 years ahead of them and months ahead of our schedule on the contracts that are in place. Then we have put the legal procedure together, and it is the right thing to do to hold professionals accountable for misdiagnosis that is causing this problem today. Okay. And then third, we have a contract in place. First of all, we couldn't get a contractor couldn't start building the bridge until we tore it down. Yeah. The initial bidding process that my opponent just said, we got what we needed, which was somebody to tear the bridge down.
Okay, all right, let's hold it there.
Yeah, I would say, that's, I guess, his take on that, but I don't know if the whole, you wanted a bridge built before the election, I think that could resonate with people. And I think the bottom line is, what do people care about more? I think, do they care about her record at CVS and opioids, his record on the bridge? What resonates more, now? And you said he was more aggressive. Is that what people want, or does that look like somebody, as she said, who's desperate?
Well, I think the aggressive part, I think people might want to see that in Dan McKee. You really want the job, fight for it. The bridge might be a stronger argument for her than the CVS thing is for him. I think that's just the way everybody goes. Most of us go over the bridge, even if you don't live on that side of the bay. All right, let's go to yesterday's big story on Action News, as they say. He appointed Judge Luis Matush. In fact, hold on, before we're going to get mixed up on the pronunciation, let's have the judge say his name for us, and then we'll follow his lead.
My name is Luis Matush. I'm an Associate Justice on the Rhode Island Superior Court.
There you go. There you go. He's giving us the Portuguese pronunciation. By the way, he is a Portuguese immigrant, came over as a child in law school, college, successful as a judge in his own right, and now he's been nominated to the Rhode Island Supreme Court. The question, Brian, is is it going to happen, or is it moot? Let's explain that and keep it as simple as we can.
Yeah, so, right, the governor makes his pick after this whole process, and Joe Shekarchi, one of the candidates, and that was really the headliner. Now he picks somebody else, a longtime judge, federal prosecutor before that, right? So the way it works is it has to go to both the state House and Senate for their approval. But it's supposed to happen within 60 days, which, again, from now, we're into October. But the House Speaker and Senate President put out a statement yesterday saying, we don't want to do this before the November election because we want to keep politics out of it. But, okay, that's past 60 days from now. But I was told that the clock on the 60 days doesn't start until the governor hands the legislature an official letter saying, here's my nominee. So the governor could wait. Now, the problem is, if he waits till after the November election to give him, and remember, in Rhode Island, it's a part-time legislature. They're not in session again until January, so they'd have to be called back. The House Speaker says, I'm not going to do that before the election. Now, would he do it after the election with the currently constituted legislature, even though other people may have won seats to take hold in January? So if the governor waits till after November, then that pushes the clock into January. There could be a different governor by then who says, we're going to go with somebody else.
The conspiracy theory is, because of the timing, because the legislature must act in 60 days, that something's going to happen here. And guess what? We're going to go back to square one. Joe Shekarchi's going to put his name in again. That's the conspiracy theory.
You used the term in the debate last night when you started off asking about this. Was Joe Shekarchi too hot a potato? And I think that probably did play into it. And why else did the governor make his choice yesterday before the first televised debate? I don't think that's a coincidence.
Just before we go to break, let's just roll Helena Folks on the Judge Matush's appointment. And nobody really took debate on this. They didn't want to get into it yesterday. The same thing for the Republicans. Roll that, and then we're going to go to break.
I hear very good things about Judge Matos, so I have no comments on him. I do think that the people of Rhode Island expect a more transparent and fair process. So I do have questions going forward, things we can reform to really make sure that Rhode Islanders feel that there's fairness, that there is transparency, and that the judges really reflect the people.
Okay.